Welcome to the Holdo Maneuver podcast. I'm Marc.
And I'm Mike. We're two hardworking dads trying to immerse ourselves into Star Wars and fit it into our very busy lives.
If this is your first time listening and or watching, in this sometimes short-form Star Wars podcast, we'll share our thoughts on different topics from a galaxy far, far away. So join us as we prepare to execute the Holdo Maneuver. All right,
You gotta go to Arizona, don't you?
Yeah.
He'll be back. Don't worry.
Hello everyone, welcome back to another Holdo Maneuver. This is episode 53. This week we have Ted with us again. He watched the episode this week, so good start there.
Yes.
And we have Stanford joining us again.
Hey.
And then, as always, Mike is also here with me.
Always.
Yeah.
As always. Unless I'm not, then.
Yeah, unless you get taken out by a Sith Padawan.
Where did Ezra Bridger send Thrawn?
To Kmart? I don't know.
Kmart?
I don't know.
That makes sense in universe.
The Thrawn shop?
The Thrawn shop.
Actually, I probably just ruined another week. We could have used that for a joke. But
Yes, the Thrawn.
Oh.
Actually, that's pretty clever. Yeah, it's purgatory.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Nice.
Yes. All right. So, this week we are talking about part 4 of the Ahsoka series on Disney Plus. It was called A Fallen Jedi. And as anyone who watched that episode, that title means many different things for a few different people within this episode. And it was also directed by Peter Ramsey, who some people may know if you're a big animation fan. He was one of the directors of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. So when I had first heard that he was going to be directing an episode, I think it was last year, I got pretty excited about what this episode was going to kind of look like. And at least for me, before we really get into everything, that was one of the highlights for me is I really enjoyed the directing style of this episode. And I like how a lot of the shots were framed, and I felt like a lot of the shots also had like a lot of kinetic energy to them, like they did in Spider-Verse. Granted, there's going to be a little bit of a difference between like a highly stylized animated movie like Into the Spider-Verse and an episode of Ahsoka, but I think that translated pretty well to this. Stanford and I talked about a different thing that he directed, which was the Lost Ollie miniseries too, which was kind of its own thing.
Yeah,
which I would definitely suggest people to check out too. But
yeah, definitely.
You can kind of see how his directing style, like between Spider-Verse, that, and then what he did in here, how it went. But again, every episode this season 2 is also written by Dave Filoni. So next week is going to be directed by him too. So I'm excited for that too. But we'll start kind of going round robin here at the beginning, and then we'll kind of start recapping and whatnot there. But for everyone's kind of initial thoughts on what they thought of the episode, we'll start with Ted, then Stanford, and then Mike, and then I'll end the rounding out. So take it away.
Will be the Robin.
Yeah. Yum.
Well, maybe I should catch up with like that. I did watch episode 3, and I have to admit, like getting through episode 3, you guys had built it up really well, and I was bored.
Oh, man.
Hey, I said that.
You did. You warned me. then even with this episode, like the first half of it, I was like, this is so boring, and I was honestly not gonna watch after this episode. But the second half of the episode picked up. The fights got interesting. Especially with the reveal at the end of, I was like, all right, I think I'm in.
You can talk about that. I'll put the banner along the bottom. Spoiler alert, everybody! If you're watching or listen, the Bruce banner. If you're listening or watching this, hopefully you've already watched the episode. But if you haven't, pause this, go watch it, then come back. Or if you like being spoiled, that's cool too. That's your prerogative. Whatever you do, you.
You want us to spoil it and you yell at us in the comments? Go ahead.
Yeah, but now Ted is going to spoil what he wanted to say. So go ahead.
Like seeing Hayden Christensen there at the end, I was like, okay, whoa, this could go really big directions. And I'll bring it up later once we bring that up in the main part of the podcast. But like, it got me excited to the possibilities of sitting down and having a conversation with Anakin post 4-6. Like, I want to hear his thoughts. Like, does he? I don't know. Yeah, I can bring it up later once we get there. But I kind of really felt like, but the last half of this episode is finally where it's at a good pace. I honestly have a hard time watching TV because TV goes so slow. I like concise storytelling that movies bring. And now I think it's finally picking up, and hopefully next episode, I'll definitely be watching next episode. I'm excited to see what happens.
Nice. How about you, Stanford?
You know, I concur with Ted on a lot of stuff. The pacing of the series overall has been a bit of a challenge for me in that I just watch so many movies. You know, I watch way more movies than I do watch episodic television. So I have to get kind of back into that mindset that, okay, it's going to be slow and this is going to be stretched out over multiple episodes. Anyway, and then I'm also with Ted, like things just picked up in a major way. It wasn't like a deal breaker for me. I've liked these other episodes, even though I just kind of felt like a lot of it is just, two characters just kind of being sad and talking softly to each other, for the whole episode. But wow, the fights were so cool. I'm with you, Mark. Peter Ramsey's direction was so solid. And I noticed it just from the get-go, just the way he was framing the scenes and whatnot, even though maybe not necessarily a lot was happening, other than just two sad people talking. But wow, so cool. And I love the lightsaber fights. I love Hu Yang kicking ass, excuse my French. Oh, yeah. And wow, so much fun. And then the big reveal when when they go to the world between worlds and there's Anakin. Holy cow. I'm really anxious to see where this is going to go.
Nice. I see what you did there, Mike. And then now, what did you have to say, Mike?
Exactly. No, I thought this episode was tighter than the previous ones, for sure. Even though not like story-wise, not much happened. Again, it seems like that's a theme of the series, is they have two main points in an episode and they just draw it out for whatever reason. I'm enjoying it. I thought the fight sequences were cool. I'm still kind of confused by the last one. We'll talk a little bit on that later because I don't understand certain choices the characters made. I was wary because last episode 3 was very. Like I said, I stopped it in the middle. I was like, holy crap! I still got half left, and like rolled my eyes. But I enjoyed this one. I'm enjoying where it's going. I'm enjoying seeing where it's going, I should say. But some questions on things they put in. Be the typical fan. Be like, I don't know anything other thing they do, so I can't say I was expecting something different. It's just I questioned some things because it was kind of like, why? That makes no sense to me. But overall, good. Enjoying it. Two sad people talking. How about you, Mark?
That's like a whole subgenre of of film.
Isn't that like French films are all about?
Yeah, it's like a French film. Two sad people talking.
The French New Wave of Two Sad People Talking by Jean-Luc Godard. A lot of French in this episode between Stanford and this. But but yeah, I think I think generally, I guess the past 4 well, the past 3 episodes of Holdo, past 4 episodes of Ahsoka, I think I've generally been the warmest on it out of everyone we've had on here, but like between, like Stanford, Ted, Kai, Kenny, and Aspen. Like I know Aspen, I think I'm maybe like as close to like how Aspen enjoyed the like premiere as far as like how I'm taking in the series. I know as far as the 4 people on here this week too, that Stanford and I are the only 2 that have seen Rebels as well. So there's that whole perspective with it too, which the past few weeks have kind of asked my wife each week like how she liked the episode, because she hasn't seen Rebels. So I'm always trying to kind of contextualize, like, I know who all these people are and what experiences they've been through, but like Mike or like Ted, like you guys watching it, you guys haven't watched Rebels, you didn't see all like the stuff that like Hera and Sabine and like Ahsoka went through together on that show. So when some stuff happens, you may not have the right contextualization for that, and that's not your fault. That's sometimes the show should be able to feed that to you in a way that's not like retelling it for people that do know that, but also in a way that's kind of telling you what happened without.
Well, it's hard because you don't want to get into that. Let me just have everyone talk and give backstory for a scene mode.
Yeah, like you don't want to like
forced exposition.
Yeah, be like have like a
anime.
whole thing. Yeah, like you don't want to have like a whole thing with like Jacen and Hera talking about Kanan, because then some people will be like, "Who's Kanan? What's that?"
I watched enough recaps to know the emotional levels I need to realize.
Yeah. Thankfully,
but there are some things I'm gonna be like strange you out, and then that's why I send them to you, and then you correct me.
Yeah, that's right. And I mean, we'll get to it too, like when we get to near like the end of the episode. But like, even like the setting of where we see at the end of the episode is going to be something people that have again watched Rebels are familiar with more than like if Ahsoka is your first time like with some of these characters and you're seeing you're like what the hell is this place and whatnot. So I think it's got to walk like kind of that fine like line, tightrope, whatever analogy you want to give to it. Yes. But I don't know. Again, I think for me, I'm receiving it in a little bit different way than I guess a lot of or some other people are, and I'm a little bit warmer on it. But I am enjoying the pacing of it. I don't know if that makes me weird, but I tend to like slower pacing and some stuff, and I'm a little bit more. I guess I'm used to that with how like Dave Filoni tells a lot of his stories too, because generally like Clone Wars that started off like at a very slow pace and like built up progressively into like a crescendo where like everyone that has watched Clone Wars or the movies with that, they'll be like, you can watch like these episodes in like seasons 1, 2, but 3 is where it like really picks up 4 or 5 and then like the final season that was just on, like everyone will tell you need to definitely need to watch the last 4 episodes of that, because it's essentially like a companion piece movie to like Revenge of the Sith, because you're seeing what Ahsoka's dealing with at the same time as like Anakin and Obi-Wan are off helping Palps, and it like goes enough into Revenge of the Sith where you can see like Ahsoka kind of deal with feeling like Anakin's fall to the dark side within that movie too. So again, whoever, maybe if you haven't watched those last 4 episodes of Clone Wars, I would definitely suggest checking those out too, because that's a whole great thing too. But with that, I guess now we can actually get into the recap and review proper of
I guess episode. One point is maybe, and that's how I've kind of felt, is the first 3 and maybe a half episodes have been recapping Rebels in a way that they're not just sitting down telling you the best way they could figure out how to do it. So I felt like there's been a lot of exposition and not much Ahsoka story. Like, okay, this is supposed to be her show, but we're kind of talking about the past constantly, not really moving forward. Yeah. Which, okay, granted, I enjoy because I need to know these things to understand moving forward. But you wasted 3.5 episodes on it out of, what, 6 episodes total? That's why the pacing thing kind of gets me.
Yeah, and I'll be wary then, because knowing what that setting is that Ahsoka is in right now by the end of the episode, that setting is kind of we'll get there.
We'll get there.
But yeah, so the episode opens with Huyang fixing the ship from like where we ended the last episode, and Ahsoka's just like is taking over from the end of the last episode where Baylan was looking up and brooding. Ahsoka's opening this episode brooding, and then she asks like Sabine, or says they may have to make like a difficult choice to make sure that if they can't get to Ezra, that like no one can, then it's better than allowing Thrawn's return as the heir to the Empire, and just asks if she can count on her. And Sabine says, "You know that you can." So, again, I kind of like with how they've been showing a little bit of this relationship, because even this relationship, for again people that watch Rebels, this is new to everyone watching this, because that relationship really didn't exist in that show outside of the epilogue that was at the end of Rebels that they recreated in live action in the premiere episode of this. So it's been kind of interesting to go back and see contextually, or kind of piecemeal figure out like how that whole relationship was with them. But the thing that happened right after that I thought was cool too was, I called it BattleBots in my notes, because it was Huyang.
Looked like Rock'em Sock'em robots.
Yeah, like Huyang like kicking some droid ass, and he was using his like exterior back forearms which are basically just like flat like things. Because they weren't like hands. I don't think it felt like he was just like karate chop slapping the other.
That's why it looked like the Rock'em Sock'em robots. Just
Although I liked how clever he was with basically just effing up the ship again, so that it would get the attention of Ahsoka and Sabine to come out there and help him out. What did you guys think of kind of like this whole like opening sequence here?
We'll go Stanford first.
Okay, I liked it. You know, I think Huyang is such a great character. I'm so happy that David Tennant is voicing him. So anytime he's got screen time, you know, that's all good. And then I just love the fight. I thought it was great. Yeah.
How about you, Ted?
Same. I really I always think of David Tennant's lines, and I think a lesser actor probably would have delivered that line so boringly.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he makes it interesting as a droid.
Great. Yeah, I know he's a droid. Yeah, he's so good.
Yeah, and he's been doing this voice since the Clone Wars 2. So if you haven't watched the Clone Wars 2 and you enjoyed him, look up the episodes that he's in of that, because there's a good episode with him and Ahsoka where she brings a bunch of younglings to build their lightsabers. It's kind of a cool. I kind of equivalent him to, like, if you've seen like the Wizarding World, like Harry Potter movie, he's kind of like the Ollivander of Jedi Padawans, because he's helping them find their like lightsaber crystals to help them build their lightsaber, which is, you know, the equivalent.
Do you think he's going to be added to the theme parks now?
I mean,
that's what I was about to ask.
Ahsoka's there. Boba Fett's there.
Well, why wasn't he added in the first place? Like, he's like, I love the idea that he's hundreds of years old.
I could see them adding him to
like in the where you built
experience.
Yeah, they should.
Yeah,
like
which I'll never be able to afford.
Yeah, it's crazy.
You can do it. Just talk. Just be like, it's worth it.
Is it
worth it?
It's worth it.
Yeah, it totally is worth it.
But if you want to hear more about that, go back to our episode where we talked about Galaxy's Edge and building the lightsaber. So, but
Do you know the number of the episode off the top of your head?
I will let Mike talk about it a little bit, and I'll try to find what episode it was. I'll give you a topic: Sabine, Ahsoka, lightsabers. Talk.
I'm getting for Klemp. Talk amongst yourselves.
Well, I really like the
No.
advice that Hu Yang gave to Ahsoka and Sabine, which of course they didn't follow, but that they're better together.
Yeah.
And it's the consequences, with this episode.
No, it's one thing that just during the beginning, I just kept being like, what the hell? What the hell? I thought with the Force, they had like a spidey sense when something bad was happening.
Mhm.
Like there's a disturbance in the Force has been said in so many instances, yet Ahsoka's just chilling in the ship while Hu Yang's getting pummeled outside. Does it not apply to droids? Like, I was just
That did cross my mind.
Yeah.
It made me wonder if like they can't sense other droids.
They're non-life forms, so, and they
are they though?
The dark side.
They seem to be sentient.
Who's to say? They're
They have the whole underground thing in Mandalorian where Din starts kicking the droids and
they're
trying to get them to get angry.
They're sentient until they need to blow up something in the episode, and then they're not sentient creatures anymore. Although that's also why, we'll get to it later in the episode too, why you show random X-Wing pilots that you've never met before so that you can blow them up.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Droids don't have the
not the ones we know and love, right?
Yeah.
You
So-
Mitochondrians,
Yes.
the powerhouses of the cells.
Yeah.
Yes.
I wonder. Ahsoka just, again, I think she's kind of going through a fallen Jedi moment, because again, there she is, just like a sad person, two sad people in a room, right, talking. But and Sabine isn't really strong Sabine's still kind of finding her way with the Force, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, you bring up a good point.
Yeah, and like with that too, I enjoyed this whole scene with Sabine and Ahsoka, like working as a team, because it showed like as Hu Yang said, when they stuck together, that were always better as a team, and you saw that in action when they came out of the ship and were working together. Ahsoka using a force push to pull one of the people, was it a droid or just one of the random minions over in front of in front of Sabine, and she pulled it down with some Mandalorian armor. So I liked that whole team up sequence there with them doing that. But yeah, like you said, Stanford, it's too bad that they didn't listen to Yang.
Yeah.
And they end up, although if they'd stuck together, I guess the rest of the events of the episode wouldn't have played out like they did.
Well,
so they had to.
Exactly.
Yeah,
they had to.
The plot.
But-
It's the same reason why they always go upstairs in horror movies. Like nothing else would happen if they didn't.
Right.
Yeah. So from there, I kind of hinted at it, but we cut to Hera after the events of last week, where the douche in the new Republic is essentially be no, you can't go do that. Mon Mothma was cool still, but yeah. So Hera's just you know what, I'm going to go myself. I'm just gonna peace out and go help Sabine and Ahsoka. I liked the thing in there too with Jacen. He was how come you can go against what you're told to do? She's well, when you're a general, you can disobey orders too, which I thought was funny. And I liked that we saw Carson Teva again too.
Oh, absolutely.
Which I was hoping, because again, I've kind of got an idea of maybe how the timeline of this is kind of interwoven into what we've seen in Book of Boba Fett and Mando. But I was maybe thinking we would see Zeb here too, from Rebels, because when we saw him in Mando season 3, he was with Carson Teva last. So I thought maybe we'd see him there, but we didn't.
We'll see. Hopefully he shows up right at some point in the
Yeah.
run.
Maybe it was more of a budget reason.
Yeah, he is a big CG, character.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It was cool to see the ghost in live action again.
I was so stoked to see the ghost again.
And highlighted because like we've seen it as like an Easter egg in like Rogue One. We're like, oh, it's right there. See that little tiny ship on the screen?
And then the Rise of Skywalker too,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Yeah, wasn't
Like,
it supposedly in there?
Yeah.
Speaking of that ship and knowing what happened with ILM in the original Star Wars, was that a potato they were flying out of?
Oh, the
I don't know. The main ship that they depart from looked like a potato.
Looks like this big flying potato. Yeah.
Which, if you behind the scenes, they use potatoes for the asteroids.
oh yeah.
So I was just saying that.
Oh yeah, I remember them talking about that in Light and Magic. But yeah, I know there's a ship classification for that, but like I know like they
Potato.
yeah.
Russet.
Yeah.
Russet.
The Tantive, Idaho. But yeah, like this whole sequence I like.
Taters, precious.
Boil them, mash them, stick them in a stew.
Yeah.
But there's only one return, and it's not of the king; it's of the Jedi. But yeah, I like this whole sequence. I liked her line here too of the "once a rebel, always a rebel." So what did you guys have like thoughts on like this whole kind of sequence where we saw Hera again this week after like where we left off with her and Jacen last week? We'll go Ted first and then Stanford this time.
I thought she was okay. I'm not emotionally attached to her character yet. When they were like, no, you're not allowed to have the fleet with you, I was like, it's TV writing, and they have to create that conflict. I don't know. Like every time she shows up, I'm like, it's the girl from the
Scott Pilgrim.
what's the 7 girls date the guy or Scott Pilgrim? Yes. Sorry for yelling. Yes.
Obi-Wan Kenobi's wife.
Yeah.
She was in
Real
Death
life?
Proof with Rosario Dawson.
She's married to
Yeah.
Ewan McGregor.
Hera
No
Syndulla
way.
and Obi-Wan Kenobi are married.
Even though supposedly Obi-Wan and Sabine had a thing.
Satine. With a T.
Saltine, whatever.
Satine. Who is indirectly related to Sabine as a cousin.
Right.
Yeah. Timeline. Bo-Katan, Satine, Sabine. Knights of Ren, not to be confused with Sabine Wren.
And
Ren and Stimpy,
singing in an elephant.
Stanford.
Yeah.
Your
Hey,
brain is wired for dad jokes. Connect them. Yeah.
18
Go ahead,
years
Mike.
of
Did you have
experience.
something? Sorry, I didn't want to.
I was going to say the only Sabine I know was my bus driver in elementary school.
She's still driving today.
I don't know what she's doing today.
Yeah.
She's watching Ahsoka.
Yeah.
Could be watching this.
What did you think, Stanford?
I thought it was good. It's kind of weird. I think I'm so used to seeing both Hera and Ahsoka, animated,
Oh yeah.
that just in live action, it just is a little off, with the contacts and
Roku.
yeah. I mean, it's not a deal breaker by any means, and I think they've done an absolutely outstanding job with costumes and the makeup and everything. But still, every time I see Hera, it just seems always just like a little off. But and then I was noticing it too. I mean, I think the cough drops that are there.
I was going to bring that up.
Oh,
The pill packets they wear for badges.
the chloroseptic, or whatever. But anyway, it's still and seeing the space fleet, I thought, I don't know, it just reminded me of vintage Star Wars, and I liked it.
Yeah. I
What
like
did you think of the
little slips
design? Oh, going back to like the design of characters in live action, what did you think of the Cad Bane design?
I thought that was translated really well.
I thought Cad Bane looked really good.
I agree. It didn't seem like Reddit liked him, but I was like, this is spot on. This
Yeah.
is good.
It worked. It worked for me. It works. He worked better than Hera for me. You
Yeah.
know.
And I think the Inquisitor looked fine too with what's his name?
That guy.
Yeah,
that one guy.
the dude. He was in
The dude.
Pride and Prejudice and other movies. The guy that played the Inquisitor.
All time God is Keira Knightley.
Obi-Wan Kenobi.
She was in Pride and Prejudice. That's all I know.
She was also in Phantom Menace. She played
It's true.
She was
one of
the
other Padme.
decoys, right? Or one of the.
Although there is a theory that she was really the queen and Padme was a decoy.
The real queen is
Really?
the friends we made along the way.
Yeah.
Yep, there is a theory that
Who was that actor? Mark, that's gonna drive me crazy. We'll have to look
I
at
can Google it. Hold up.
Rupert Friend.
Rupert. Yeah.
It just like
okay.
it popped into my head. Just
Good call.
I had the initials because I know it wasn't Ray Fiennes, but I knew it was RF. So I was like,
you were just hoping it was Rafe Fiennes.
Yeah.
yeah. Well, and we were talking about Wizarding World earlier too, so I had all of it's up here, always trying to figure out a use for it. But yeah, talking about like showing like the ranks like on their badges. I liked that. I don't know necessarily what the character's name was, but the guy that was talking to Hera, he's like, oh, you're just gonna leave? We have like a general meeting.
Or
And he's like,
her
"She'll
essential
come-"
assistant.
Yeah, she'll. Like,
Wouldn't that be her sergeant or something like that?
Probably.
For military terms? I don't
Or
know.
like a lieutenant or something. But she's like, he'll come up with something. And he's like, all right, come up with something.
Yeah.
But and like his was just like just like the one little circle on his square badge. I thought that was kind of funny.
He ate all his pills.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Hungry.
So yeah, coming from this, and then we cut back to the Sealos again, where we have Balin talking to Morgan there, and just
Two
like
sad people.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, here's like Faith. I lost that a long time ago, which is kind of like a cool little thing, hinting at like basically how he fell from being like the classical Jedi to like kind of where like he's somewhere in the middle now.
He's
too.
like in the middle. I mean, definitely tilting towards the dark side, but yeah. Balin is a fallen Jedi too. I think is just so interesting.
Yeah, like where Ahsoka's not really a Jedi, but she's not dark. Like she's closer to the light. So like I like how they're kind of like a mirror of each other, where they're not, these absolutes, because only a Sith deals in absolutes, which that itself is an absolute. So when you say that, you are a Sith. But like yeah, so Ahsoka's leaning light side, he's leaning dark side, but never the twain shall meet. And I liked the thing here too with when Ahsoka goes up against Merrick here, and we're gonna have plenty of stuff to say about Merrick here in a little bit. But I liked this duel between Ahsoka and Merrick. That again, if anyone hasn't seen Rebels, there's a whole sequence there with Obi-Wan Kenobi versus Darth Maul, and it's their last battle against one another, and Maul tries to essentially do the same exact move that he did to take out the only person that's ever died from a abdomen wound in the Star Wars galaxy, Qui-Gon. And
He is. So far.
Yeah.
And yeah, he goes to do the same thing, and like Obi-Wan knows what he's gonna do, and it's one of the shortest lightsaber battles, but it's also one of the best because he just knows exactly, and he just like cuts him. And that's Ahsoka essentially does the same thing to Merrick, because he's just like, I'm showing off with my twirly
bits,
like Inquisitor blade here, and she's just like
nope,
just does one move, and then he turns into the smoke monster from
smoke
Lost.
monster. Yeah.
Which, and Titus Welliver as the role of Merrick this week. No. But yeah, this is so like everyone. I know this was like a thing that was like in like the discourse online was like, who's Merrick? Who's Merrick? Is it a dark?
Nobody.
Yeah.
And
I
nobody.
mean, maybe it was still somebody. Maybe they're gonna go back because I mean there's something weird going on there still.
Yeah.
Like
Like he
everyone thought
was-
was like, is he a Dark Ezra? Is he a clone of Luke? You know, the Luke from the expanded universe, LUUKE, or is he something else with like Palpatine is trying to do all the stuff to like force clone stuff. We've seen Moff Gideon try to do that, but nope, he or she or they or whatever Merrick was sand or some kind of
Something that couldn't be exposed to air because he disappeared quick.
Yeah. And
He
I
was
think-
midichlorians. He was just a big bag of midichlorians.
he was coarse and he got everywhere.
Yep.
clearly I think he was, reanimated, right? Or somehow
Yeah.
brought back to life. Or if you call it life, it's some kind, but well, I wonder if we'll learn more, or if it's just like one of those mysteries that we'll all be kind of scratching our heads over.
Yeah, it seems
I
like
was so confused. So I got online to be like, what happened? And what people were saying is that, a reanimated corpse by Morgan, the witch lady.
yeah, because
Which-
she's like a night sister of Dathomir. Dathomir is like where Maul came from, but like they're like this whole. If Aspen was here, she knows everything about the Night Sisters. But yeah, like they're like this whole subset of characters that use the Force in a very different way. And I do
Like the
kind of
Bene
like
Gesserits.
yeah, kind of sort of. I like kind of like what is going on with Ahsoka too, where it's very Arthurian, where you have Morgan Le Fay, with her like being like the witch in this, and even like the costumes with like Balin, he's kind of like dressed in like very knight-esque, like armor, like with what he's got on, like the shoulder pads and almost kind of like the I don't know what
The shoulder pads.
yeah, or like his mithril or whatever, and like Shin, she's even her, like her whole costume is kind of like like the metal.
Yeah.
And like it looks very like Knights of the Round Table, like Camelot type stuff going on there. So and then like this whole quest with like a map of going to find somebody that we need to, so it's interesting. Like it's kind of Arthurian, Arthurian. Yeah, there you go. Your mother was a hamster, and your father smelled of elderberries.
Like elderberries.
Just a silly place. Let's not go there.
Yeah. But yeah, and then I think this has also been hinted at too, with like even the names of like Shin and Balin are kind of representative of like these wolf creatures from like different myths too. And then there's the whole connection of evolution in there too, with like whales are actually descendants of wolves too. Look that up. That sounds weird, but it's real. That's a real evolution thing where like wolves became whales. So
The last thing I heard about evolution was everyone becomes crabs. So
I want YouTube pushed me that video too.
Crab people.
like it's like astonishingly amount of things end evolution as crabs for something like that.
Why not
Yeah.
Zoidberg?
Exactly. Why not do
Yeah. Yeah, so I think we'll probably get more as far as something as maybe not, because like Merrick ultimately wasn't like important,
Right.
other than to show us something that
He was a
to make
red
you
shirt.
question? Yeah.
Was he kind of a red herring or something? I don't know.
or a green sand or a black smoke.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm sure we'll find out more about not necessarily him, but like what is going on there. And then from here too, I liked, so we had that opening episode lightsaber duel, well, Ahsoka and then Merrick and Ahsoka. But then this is kind of where Sabine and Ahsoka don't listen to Hu Yang, and they split off. Sabine stays with her rematch with Shin, and Ahsoka takes off to go after Baylan. And I know that some of you guys had like a few notes on this part too. I did want to say quickly with like what I thought about this is I thought it was very good use of the environment during their whole lightsaber duel there too, with the choreography with like Baylan throwing rocks, Ahsoka using like leverage to like push herself off like the Outlander rocks there and whatnot. So because I always enjoyed that with like Jackie Chan movies with like how he would use like environmental martial arts with stuff in that. So I always have liked within Star Wars when they build choreography within like these duels like around the like environment, so it's not something that could just happen the same in any different place, but it's happening that way because of where they are while they're dueling that way. And I don't know whose note this was, but somebody had a note about why Ahsoka was only using
Me.
All right, what did you have to say about that?
I was just confused because she has two sabers. Her known fighting style is two sabers. Then this dude pulls up with his broadsword stance, and she goes, "Okay, I'm gonna go broadsword stance."
But
Why?
I am not one-handed.
Bring up the broadsword. There's its throat. No.
It was just like she's
I know,
trained herself to use two, and she's got smaller handle. It was just like, why are you doing that? It was just maddening to me.
I know at least with her doing that against Merrick, it was just because like she was definitely more sure of herself with how she was going to take on Merrick, and because she knew like Merrick thought like, you know, like I'll just do this and make it go really fast and I can kick her butt that way, and she's like nope. So I don't, maybe if it was just because of just the necessity of that duel that way too, so I don't know.
And again, if she went with two, maybe the story wouldn't be where we are now. But still, it was just one of the maddening points of the episode where it was just like, you have a second one. What are you doing? Why aren't you force pushing that damn map out of the way? Like, why do you got to touch it? Like,
yeah. The other thing too I liked on the Sabine Shin duel side was where there was this shot that we've seen in some of the trailers where like it looks like Sabine's trying to like force push Shin, and she's just like
she did.
I don't know.
I thought she did something because she goes like that.
Oh well, so
Was she just bracing for it?
yeah, she's like, you don't have power, but yeah, and she like braces, and then Sabine shoots the.
Okay,
stuff
I thought
out
like
of her.
maybe something happened. Like behind her by accident. Like,
but the other part of that too is like during that whole sequence, I liked the use of the environment with like the lightsabers like cutting down the trees in the
I was
forest.
gonna mention, they cut the trees, but you never see them fall.
No, you do, and even
You
one
do?
of them,
I must have missed it.
Yeah, you see a little bit of them.
and it felt funny because it like did that, and I thought about it. I was like, oh, I guess the leaves would make the end down. Like,
Oh yeah.
I don't know. I do physics engine stuff in CG a lot, so I noticed it. Like,
Yeah, but she hit that tree too, and like when her helmet went flying off, I was like, she hit that like hard.
Hard,
Would have to hit it
yeah.
hard for the helmet to go flying off like that.
I thought we were going to see her use the Force to get her helmet back in the end. Like the one thing she might truly care
yeah.
about enough to.
That was one of the things too. I kind of spoke on this like at the very beginning with like Peter Ramsey's direction. I liked that like framing of that shot with like showing her helmet like laying there on the leaves in the forest as you see like Shin and so being like in like the foreground dueling there still, and I just liked that whole kind of context of like how that shot was set up. But someone else had a note here too. Like with I liked the smoke bomb. I made like a joke of that. Like smoke bomb, run away. Yeah.
Pocket sand.
Yeah.
They just pick a little bit of Merrick up and you throw it.
it's so disappointing that those bombs don't exist in real life. I'd be using them all the time. I'd be like, hey, I'm out of here.
Yeah, this is on the one of the more recent seasons of the CW Flash show. there was a character on that one of the Harrison Well variants, he had like smoke bombs that actually were like portals. So like if you threw them down, it would make the smoke bomb, but then it actually like transported you somewhere else. So it wasn't just like
didn't Barney on How I Met Your Mother use smoke bombs?
oh yeah, but
I know he
think
did the Flash, but
I think that was just because Neil Patrick Harris is actually like into like magic, so he's just like magic. But the next thing here too that I when they cut back to Baylan versus Ahsoka, which I thought was interesting, is Ahsoka when she tries to grab the map like out of the green fire that's there too. She gets burned, essentially similar to the main Nazi in Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yes.
Picks up the amulet there too. And
I'm glad you thought of that too, because that was the first thing that came to my mind. I was like, "Holy cow! This is Raiders of the Lost Ark."
I was thinking of that, but then I was also again thinking of like Wizarding World Harry Potter stuff too, because of like how like sometimes like the Horcrux stuff kind of like affected whoever touched them. Like I know like in there like Dumbledore when he put on the ring on that, like it like cursed his hand. So I didn't know if it was like if it somehow messed
surprised you didn't think of the doorknob from Home Alone.
that too.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
But it was just strange because she picked it up fine in episode 1.
Well,
But I guess because it was activated, it was different.
yeah,
and in the fire. Because I didn't even think about the fire until just now, because I just thought of it as like, pretty green light that it was sitting up. But I guess it was fire.
And it was processing,
something.
getting the coordinates.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I was almost wondering if this was, like, I know, so this is where we'll start to kind of talk about where she ends up at the end of the episode, but I thought maybe this is kind of has maybe some kind of cross correlation to why she's able to show up into the world between worlds again here at the end of this episode. Maybe, I don't know. I know she's been there before, so maybe she has access to it, and it's generally only.
Well, my thought was,
temples.
if we're gonna go there, I guess my thought was,
Yeah, not just yet, but like a.
okay, I'll shut up.
No worries. Yeah, so like we'll get there in a little bit. But yeah, Baylan pushes Ahsoka over the cliff edge and then talks to Sabine. Oh, here too, I also liked how you could see like some like genuine, like the affection that Ahsoka had for Sabine, because when Shin shows back up there and Ahsoka just assumes that Sabine's dead, because the last time she saw her, she was dueling Shin. So and then when Shin just shows back, she's like, Sabine. Which, oh yeah, she does see her. I was gonna say, wait, did they see each other? But yeah, they did. Yeah. So then Baylan pushes Ahsoka over the cliff edge and then talks to Sabine into giving over the map, and gives his word to get Ezra. The thing that I thought was interesting here too is that he said that her entire family died on Mandalore. So again, I'm not really sure of the. I have ideas of where this is in the timeline, but like I don't know if this is like the night of like the Thousand Tears that we've heard about with like Bo-Katan and Mando and whatnot.
I thought that happened parallel to Rebels and what I stuff I was watching before this.
It happened.
I thought it was like right around the same moment.
It happened post Rebels, because in Rebels, at a certain point, Sabine has the Darksaber that Bo-Katan had recently in Mando, but then in here we saw the. But then she gives it to Bo-Katan there, and like the whole other thing, but. And then that's kind of like the last place we saw Bo-Katan in Rebels was that. But so yeah, because in Rebels, like you saw like her family, like her father and like her brother and her parents and that. So it's interesting to like kind of find out this way that she's I guess the last of her family, and so essentially her family is Hera, Ezra.
Do you think
Ahsoka.
though Baylan was telling her the truth?
Right, that's.
I mean, with him maybe, just because he seems like especially because like when Shin comes in there and after he's made like the whole deal and like she's trying to like force choke Sabine out, and he's like, no, don't kill her. I just told her that I was gonna like get her to like, because they could have easily just like killed her there at that
Killed
point,
her.
like because they already had what they needed. They were off to do what they needed to. They didn't. There's not really a point for them at this point to have her as any kind of leverage. He assumes Ahsoka's dead, so he's like, no. So
And his
other than
motivation.
just- yeah, I don't know.
Like I'm hoping that there's more to his motivation than just the bad thing is the right thing to do. Like,
Yeah.
I've been trying to figure out in other episodes we talk about it, what happens to Jedi who like flunk out of Jedi school or whatever. And in my learnings, a lot of them just go become mercenaries for the highest bidder. So that's his motivation could just be money. That's that's what I'm coming from, is he's just getting money out of it, or some Thrawn, like he's promised like a seat next to Thrawn or something.
But still has like his own kind of personal moral code that he's not willing to break beyond.
Still got that Jedi in him.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
gonna be really interesting to see, how his character arc continues, because
It doesn't at the end of this season.
well,
Yeah.
sadly,
Yeah.
right?
R.I.P. Ray
Ray.
Stevenson, who I think was definitely one of the MVPs of this episode too.
Yeah, he was terrific, I thought.
Use banners to summarize your fucking point.
Clicked the wrong one. I don't know why you didn't delete that one.
But
did
you
the
think
actor died?
Yeah, Ray
Ray
Stevenson passed
Stevenson
away.
died
maybe
when, like
a few
June
months
or
ago.
something, or
Right before this came out, yeah.
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 I mean, like from what, like massive heart attack or something. It was just kind of like a sudden.
I never saw the reason.
Yeah.
I
I
It's
don't
a
know.
bummer.
That's true. I don't know either. Seemed like it was a sudden thing, but maybe there was something else going on. We don't know.
I just remember seeing him in the trailer, and then like time had gone by, and I saw he died, and I sent Marc a picture. Wasn't he just in this trailer?
Yeah.
Yeah. I
What
mean,
do you
people. I mean, if you're only like fans of like Marvel, Star Wars stuff too, people may recognize him as Volstagg from the first two Thor movies and the beginning of the third Thor movie. He was
I don't remember much from the first Thor movies.
He was essentially the Gimli of Thor's, like
The Gimli.
Warriors 5. He was the big.
Oh
lead dude.
yeah, that guy.
Yeah, that was Ray.
I didn't realize it was him.
Yeah.
That's him.
Yeah.
But yeah,
What do you think of Sabine's choice to
Selfish.
hand over the map?
Selfish because she agreed to. That wasn't the plan. If things go pear shaped.
It felt very. We have to get the plot going more. It felt just written in for written in sake.
Yeah, what are we gonna do to move this forward? Type thing.
Yeah.
Because the funny thing is, Ahsoka grabs the map, what the ball thing, whatever. They're like, "Oh, we're not even close to done." She gets put back instantly. We're done. Like,
Yeah, it was like only halfway, or slightly over halfway, and they're like, "Bing, Windows 95 downloaded."
The internet connection just somehow, yeah.
I mean that is how downloads
Sped
go.
up.
Like, it stays at 75% for like.
that's when you put your mouse on it to make sure it's.
Yeah, that is
That's
still
what I
going.
do.
It's still
I
going.
do that too.
Absolutely.
No, I thought it was selfish, but at the same time, I kind of figured it was gonna something like that was gonna happen in this series where she was gonna. They wouldn't have put it in that whole conversation
Yeah.
if it wasn't gonna happen. Is basically the way I felt the second they had that conversation on the ship. Was okay. One of them's gonna break this like at some point.
Yeah, and then like I can see it from like two different viewpoints there too, because again, like kind of he was like playing off of like all of her kind of vulnerabilities there too, with like what would hit her like the hardest, like bringing Ezra up like a million times, like in that too, like you could sense and know like that's like it's like at the forefront of her mind. That's like what her goal has been for however many years it's been since I believe like
Was it he was using a Jedi mind trick?
maybe yeah, because it's been like I think it's been at least like 10 years since Ezra left with Thrawn and the
With
Purgo
Thrawn.
at the end of Rebels. Yeah. So, and who knows where they've been that like entire time. But then the thing I liked here too is so Sabine, while she's captured, she sees that Hera's arrival before the hyperdrive is activated, and that hyperdrive jump is a super crazy visual with that eye of Scion. Not to be confused with the eye of
Sauron.
I was gonna say the eye of Soren because Mike's here.
I am here. It is true.
And then there's your eye. But
I have 2 of them. Believe it or not.
Well, 4 eyes with your glasses.
Are these really eyes though?
No. I feel like I should have got the glasses memo. I could have taken my contacts out and wore mine.
And we all would have been, yeah.
I can go get my pair that only has 1 lens, and then I can be half and half.
Yeah.
All right, but keep going. Keep going. Sorry.
Oh yeah, the only other thing I liked Jacen here saying, "Mom, I've got a bad feeling," and someone had a note about that.
Yeah. That was a
Okay,
good note.
there are 2 types of people in this world: those who need closure. And I needed him to finish the line.
Finish the line. I kept waiting to come back. Like, finish the line.
I thought I said it and
Finish
I
the
missed
line.
it, and I went back and I was like, nope, he didn't say it.
You didn't say it.
He's a kid. Maybe he doesn't know the whole line. I don't know. But yeah, like what I was saying earlier too. Like when the ring, the hyperdrive ignites and they take off to galaxies unknown, and it just like takes out basically all of the X-wing pilots that came with Hera except for Carson Teva.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, it's like, well, good.
He got paid too much to get taken out.
Yeah, he's been highly. He's been in too many episodes now.
Yeah.
Been in how many shows? And this is his 3rd show?
Book of
4th
Boba
show?
Fett, Mandalorian, Ahsoka. Will probably show up at Skeleton Crew. I mean, he's awesome.
He didn't get stabbed in the stomach, so
Yeah,
he's-
Carson T was cool. But yeah, then the other thing I liked here too is that once we cut from this, so I liked this transition too so they cut to back down to the planet and you see the cliff and you see like the water and this is like a really good transition from that, and then at first it kind of just looks like Ahsoka is like a giant, but it was like the quote unquote floor that she's on and like how that works there, on like how it's like the waves of it are coming. I just liked that whole like visual transition, which again Peter Ramsey with everything that he had to do with visuals and stuff and into the Spider-Verse. I'm wondering if this was maybe like an idea he had here for like that visual transition to this. But we see like Ahsoka, she's laying there, she's in the world between worlds, and you kind of vaguely hear off screen, you hear, hello Snips, and didn't expect to see you so soon. And for those who watched Clone Wars, Snips is what Anakin would call Ahsoka.
That was his nickname. Yeah.
So Ahsoka would call him Sky Guy. And then we cut to what looks like an episode 3 Revenge of the Sith era Hayden Christensen. Standing there in the world between worlds, smiling. Not a Force ghost. Looking fully corporal. And
corporal.
Yeah. But yeah, and I the thing that I noticed here too, and which I'm sure you guys did too, is like there's this slight music cue here too, as he's smiling, that plays a very, very brief Imperial March musical cue.
Kind of gave me the feeling that he's going to be evil still.
which I'm not sure.
Like, why would you
'Cause-
give that musical cue?
Right. The musical
Yeah.
cue.
Or if it's not Anakin. So this is supposed to be post Return of the Jedi, and as we know at the end of that, we see Hayden Christensen, Force Ghost, for anyone that's watched the more recent versions of Return of the Jedi, standing there next to Alec Guinness and Muppet Yoda, and which I'm okay with. I like seeing Hayden Christensen in there as Anakin. It makes sense to me. I know there's also reasons why it should look like Sebastian Shaw there too, but either way, I think Luke is going to recognize who it is because he's just going to still have that connection to knowing the feeling of what I guess his dad's Force aura would feel like. And my part of my theory with like at least Force Ghosts is that to like see like the fully kind of like corporal. I mean not corporal because you'd have to be able to touch them, but like the fully like visualized Force Ghosts, you have to have some kind of personal connection with them to see them, maybe, which is like why Rey can see like the Force Ghost versions of Luke and Leia near the end of Rise of Skywalker, and like why Luke only sees Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Yoda here because those were the three. I mean, the only three Force users he would have known at that point, and so the other thing I'm wondering here too is, from what we've seen with Ahsoka before in the World Between Worlds, in Rebels, her whole situation there too is that in that Ezra accesses it through this temple, ends up there. This is spoiler alert, post Kanan passing away and sacrificing himself in Rebels. And at the end of season 2 of Rebels, after Anakin and Ahsoka, not Anakin, but Darth Vader and Ahsoka duel each other in that, it's assumed that Ahsoka is dead. Because we see Vader leaving the temple at the end of that season 2 finale, and you don't see Ahsoka again. So in here, Ezra sees Ahsoka during that battle, because in this World Between Worlds, there's like, he can hear like all these different things that like haven't happened yet or will happen soon or have happened, because you hear like audio cues from like A New Hope, audio cues from like Force Awakens, stuff from Revenge of the Sith, stuff from the prequels and everything there, and he sees Kanan sacrifice himself again in like one of like these doorways, and in one of the doorways he sees Ahsoka fighting Vader, and he just as like she's gonna get struck down by Vader, he pulls her out of it, so she's in the World Between Worlds with Ezra there. Whole stuff ensues there. If you want to see this it's a good episode, so go check it out, especially if you're confused about where Ahsoka is at the end of this episode of
it's a really good episode.
I think the episode's called The World Between Worlds too, so it's an easy one to find, and it's season 4 of Rebels. It's near the tail end of the last season there, but basically she goes back through the portal by the end of that episode, so that like she doesn't mess up any kind of timeline stuff and just kind of like lays low until she can show back up again. So I'm wondering if maybe that's why she just, because she's been there before, like she has this past connection to it, is able to access it somehow, and you can only access it through like these very spiritual places or temples. So because they are there at that stone temple, is just supposed to be like an older Force related temple on this planet, that maybe that has some kind of cross correlation there too with why she was able to access it. Maybe she is dead and this is purgatory, as we said at the beginning of the episode, which is the World Between Worlds. But I know that some of you guys had a few like other kind of theories about what may be going on here too.
Yeah, I wonder if Ahsoka is dead or alive. And given that we see Anakin, younger, and what he's wearing, you know, is she seeing kind of the past Anakin who's ventured his way in there, you know? I mean,
Yeah. Or
so,
just like that's like her visual, like her mind's visual
yeah.
representation of what Anakin should look like.
So there's this is going to be a big episode. I think it's so interesting. You know, as you already mentioned, that Dave Filoni directed, you know, part 5.
Yeah, they just posted this today too. Like they're going to be doing screenings.
Yeah, in like what 10 or 12 cities, they're going to be doing theatrical screenings of it.
Nowhere near around any of the 4 of us.
I know. Boo.
But yeah, I mean that would be awesome to go see that, because I've heard heard rumors about like how big this next episode's going to be. I think it's supposed to be the longest episode of this season. The people that worked on the show, this was like next week's episode is their favorite episode of the season. So I hope they're not building it up too much. I know that I'm excited just based off of like I was a big fan of like the prequels Anakin and of Anakin throughout like Clone Wars, and like Matt Lanter playing him in Clone Wars, or Hayden Christensen playing him in the live action. It was good seeing him back in Obi-Wan. It's good seeing him in this too. Kai, who was on this last week, made a pretty good joke on Twitter. Was that it's like, oh, it looks like Anakin's android arm is one with the Force too, because he's got the robot arm there in the World Between Worlds. But Mike, did you have? I think these are notes. Like, did you have?
I'm the purple notes. You're looking at it.
Yeah,
I'm green.
Okay.
Like, so I don't have any explanation of how or why he's there, but like they've never really explored in any of the series, like, does Anakin regret what he did all those years? Like, obviously he had last minute regret kind of thing, and by throwing the Emperor down, but like I want to hear the character talk about it. And even so, if I could write 1 through 9, if I could, like, I would too sad people talking. I would have written 7, 8, 9 that Anakin somehow, okay, this is how I would have done it. That the chosen one is able to reincarnate without a father, just like jump in and be born again. I would have had Rey, exactly like Avatar. I would have had Rey be Anakin, and there could even be like a to Luke, like, no, I'm your father kind of thing. Just so all 9 movies would be about the same person. 7, 8, 9 are just so disconnected.
They
from
were
1 through 6.
They were all about Palpatine.
Like, who cares about 7, 8, 9? Because
it's the Skywalker
1 through 6. But if like I would have had, so 1 through 3 is the rise of Anakin, 4, 5, 6 is the fall, you know, like leaving the Garden of Eden. He's the universe was this perfect, or the galaxy was this perfect state that he kicked it out of the Garden of Eden. He sent it into this lone and dreary world, this Wild West grittiness. And then 7, 8, 9, I would have made it of him making right what he did wrong and putting the galaxy back into this perfection state.
Hoping
just so that it'd be one big story. Like, so I want more from Anakin. I want to hear him say words like, to Ahsoka, you, my Padawan, need to make right what I've done wrong. You need to mend this galaxy. You're the one. I need you to do it for me. Something like that would be so rewarding.
I liked
might happen. Her
hearing his voice. The first thing she said was like reverted back to like Padawan status and called him master too. What you were saying with your theming too, Ted, you could even do it so like prequels, father, original trilogy, son, Luke, and then with your idea of like having him be like reincarnated into Rey, the Holy Spirit. There you go, Father, Son, and Holy.
The Holy Spirit.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he's space Jesus. He was. Shimmy is like what, like Force?
Mary.
Yeah, Force Mary.
She's
Force Mary.
the Virgin
Is-
Mary.
Yeah.
Qui-Gon is Force Joseph.
And then if
None of them
the
are carpenters,
chosen
though.
one,
Yeah.
or the,
Yeah.
if the chosen one could be reincarnated at his own will, then they could go back into like Knights of the Old Republic and still have it be about the same character.
And
Kind
Dave
of
Filoni
thing.
did
But that
work
is-
on the
that-
Last Airbender.
Did he? That is
Yeah.
a little too much Avatar. Yeah.
That is, yeah.
And even-
he worked on that before he went to Clone Wars.
But even Avatar Roku says to Aang, you know, I failed. You need to make right. So maybe I am lifting a little too much from Avatar.
It's a cool idea. I know. So like that was with the music there too. I know in the Colin Trevorrow version of Episode 9, there was supposed to be some kind of thing with like a Force ghost, Anakin, appearing to Kylo, where it like kept changing back and forth between it. Like it would be Anakin during the conversation, and then it would change to Vader, and then back
Is that
to
like-
Anakin?
Where Gollum's over here and Smeagol's down here.
Yeah, but like, because it was in that like Episode 9 Trevorrow script that like leaked like a couple of years ago. There's the whole thing in that. This stuff's been coming out lately too, like talking about like all the deleted scenes from Rise of Skywalker that got cut out, like with like Kylo torturing Chewbacca and whatnot. Like, and Finn using a lightsaber and Exegol at the end of the movie too. So it seems like so much stuff was cut. But this is a different. This is for our eventual Rise of Skywalker episode that we'll do for like talking about that movie. But I was just bringing that up because as like with like getting that little hint of the Imperial March, maybe it's not actually Anakin. Maybe it's, I don't. It could, this again could be like something else from like Clone Wars where it's the Mortis trilogy stuff with like the son, the daughter, and like the Morai there, like her whole spirit like went into Ahsoka. So maybe that could be something going on there too, or because in that Mortis trilogy of Clone Wars, basically Anakin's got this whole thing that happens with the son in that episode too. So it might not actually be. I mean, it'd be cool if it's Anakin, but it might not be Anakin. So I'm prepared
if it
for
was-
it to not be.
If it was a good Anakin, a changed Anakin, I probably would have played his theme from the prequels.
Yeah.
Before the Imperial March.
Wrong one.
Yeah. So yeah, and I know that there's that one TV spot that they did that had audio dialogue from Hayden Christensen that seemed like from the time period of the Tales of the Jedi stuff that they did with Ahsoka, where he was training her with the clones like again and again and again to basically be able to take care of herself. So I'm assuming that dialogue is going to be coming from this next episode. So I don't know if there's going to be like flashbacks in that, or if it's just going to be like
Sticking with what they've been doing, they're gonna live action stuff that's already been animated.
Yeah, I mean, in the World Between Worlds, they can just walk up to those portals, and there'll be like a clips show where they can like walk up to be like, remember this, and you can see like Hayden Christensen wearing the Matt Lanter Anakin like Clone Wars armor. That would be pretty cool. Maybe see like maybe Ewan McGregor shows up in one of those clips like in his Clone Wars armor too. They give him like a really like makeup like square like beard and
Yeah.
haircut to
Like,
look more like
yeah,
the
the
animated
series,
version.
yeah.
But yeah, I think so. That's pretty much like the end of the episode. Did you guys have any closing thoughts on anything else from this episode, or what you personally would like to see from the episode next week? So we'll go Stanford first time, then Ted, then Mike, and then I'll close out.
You know, my mind was going all sorts of directions after the end of this episode of ways it could go, and I honestly don't have a preference. I'm just more curious. Just to say, okay, well, I trust Dave Filoni, and I think he's an outstanding storyteller, and also no one knows Star Wars better than Dave. So, I honestly, I wish I could predict something. Honestly, I have no screaming clue what's in store for us. I just hope it's gonna be great.
Nice. And how about you, Ted?
I'm the same. I hope this episode is the one that gave me the most hope that will keep me going in this series. Excited to see and curious. Yeah, I hope that it really is Anakin and that we can get some more character stuff from him. But yeah, I'm excited.
Because there's two type of people.
Those who need closure.
Yeah.
Anyway, no. And then Mike, how about you?
Oh, my closing thought is just going back to the world within worlds or between worlds.
Side worlds.
Palpatine used that
Besides worlds.
all the time, right? Wasn't that the story? Like he's the one who, and he got pissed that Ezra figured it out.
He was able to. He knew that Ezra was there, but like he himself was trying to access it so he could get in there. But he was like having to he was basically using some kind of like Witches of Dathomir type dark magic there because he had like the whole green flame thing going on with him too.
So who's to say he didn't teach Vader this, and that's how Anakin knows about it? And who's to say Anakin, who could, I'm assuming is good, pulled Ahsoka in and saved her life again, a la Ezra, in the fight?
If that's what happened.
Because at first I thought, oh, shit, that's where they're going, is this world. And then I was like, maybe this is the world where Force ghosts exist. And that's why they're always blue tinged and like,
Nice.
I don't know. But
That could be interesting.
I enjoyed the pacing of this episode better than episode 3. I'm still excited to keep watching. That's kind of, it hasn't been an Ahsoka show yet, in my opinion. It has. I was expecting more of her, less of the whole Rebel storyline, but it is what it is. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm enjoying it. I want to know where it's going. So they hooked me pretty good with this episode and the cliffhanger there. So on to next week.
Nice. Yeah, and I think like with that too, I think next week is going to be very heavily Ahsoka's. I'm almost wondering if it like a majority of the screen time next week is just going to be here like in this setting with Anakin and Ahsoka, and whatever that all entails, and like maybe her being there helps her to figure out what they need to do to be able to, now that like it's going to be like her and Hera and Carson Teva and Jacen going to get Ezra and make sure that Thrawn doesn't come back, which I'm assuming we will see Thrawn in the next episode. I'm assuming maybe we'll see Ezra. And I almost wish like in that one trailer that they hadn't shown Thrawn standing on that very recognizable like bridge of the like the Lightspeed Eye of Sion, because with how like designed that bridge is, like it's very recognizable that he's standing in the same spot that Morgan is. So I'm assuming that'll be next week, maybe that's the end of the episode. Be like, oh, and like we'll spend all this time with Ahsoka and Anakin in the world between worlds, and then it'll cut to them coming out of Lightspeed at the end there, and be like, oh, here's Thrawn. But it I'm curious, and I'm hoping that like next week's episode isn't like overhyped based on like everything that we know about it or maybe don't know about it. And then just being like a big fan of Hayden Christensen and the character of Anakin, I'm excited to see exactly how much he'll be in that next week. Maybe they put him on the poster for the mid-season things. So
yeah, they hit the member berries pretty hard for the ending here.
Yeah.
Member.
Although I made sure when I shared that poster on the Holdo Instagram that I put a little GIF thing over his part of it that said spoiler alert. So if people hadn't seen the show yet,
Good
and
call.
they saw the poster, be like, oh, okay, cool. It would only be when they clicked it that they'd be like, oh, wait, what? I can't blame me. I put the spoiler alert thing over it. So, but yeah, I am excited for next week. I'm looking forward to seeing what Dave Filoni does in that episode, where it goes from there too. Because now we're officially halfway through the season at the end of this episode. So from next week on, that'll be the second half tail end of the season. So it'll be so because of that now, that they've gone off to where like they wanted to. They have Ahsoka here. This is where it's like the crescendo is going to start. That build up to where like it climaxes by the end of the finale of the season, hopefully. So we'll see what happens there too. But yeah, so that'll do it for episode 53 of Hold a Maneuver. You guys can leave us a review on the podcast catcher of your choice, or if you watch this on YouTube, you can leave a comment in this video, or subscribe to us, or all of those things. You can also find the show on social media at HoldoPod on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, here on YouTube if you're watching this. I also made a TikTok, I guess, for HoldoPod. We'll see how that goes. Because I put like two of the like reels, shorts, because that's what drives people to the channel. So I don't know. We made
a taste. Give them a taste.
We made this one about the Force that I had an idea for, and it's doing okay. So it came to me for like the idea for that after last week's episode with Sabine talking about not being able to use the Force. So if you haven't watched that yet, that's in one of those places, YouTube, or
it's in one of those places.
One of the places that do the the short attention span vertical videos. Those. But yeah, you can. So, and then where can they find you online, Ted, and then Stanford?
On YouTube, I'm at Ted Sowards, and if you want to find me on X, I'm at Ted here.
Ted here.
Ted here.
Not Ted there.
Not Ted there.
Where's Bill?
So I'm on Twitter/X, although I'm really trying to quit it. But I'm also on Threads, but I think Threads lasted for a month. Still, I'm at Stanford Clark, but the best place to find me is I've got a movie podcast and website at moviespastandpresent.com.
Yeah, and then Mike and I are also on all those places.
We're here.
At our names. If you're watching a video of this, our handles are probably what you're seeing on the screen. Mike's, I think, is a little bit different. But yeah, so that
just search my name.
Yeah.
Pick the one with the middle initial. You'll find me.
And then if you want to email us, you can email us at holdapod@gmail.com. But here we go to Mike's favorite part of the episode. Because as always, we are grateful to George Lucas for creating the Star Wars universe.
Oh dear, thank the maker.
Bye, everybody. See you in the world between worlds. Bye.